Welcome to the bonus. We're finishing our conversation on a subsequent date about Mechanisation Takes Command. It's like the third great book, the third big book of Secret Giedion.
The second,
really. Yeah, and it's very much like a follow-up to Space-Time and Architecture, but in the world of furniture, everyday life, the home, and
the factory.
Yeah.
The bit that we're going to deal with is the home. The first section that we talked about before, I would say,
was a bit more like
production.
Food. Yeah, but it's really about the fundamentals, the fundamental like essentials of life through the prism of ever-increasing mechanization. And it's very cool. I think that it's there are definitely things about it which are a bit more enjoyable than Space-Time, like the fact, just because they're a bit more obscure, there's like a lot more curiosities.
This is a super fantastic collection of references.
Yeah.
The method is no less flawed, although different, than its Space-Time.
Yeah.
A lot of it is really looking at either art works or advertisings, and to some extent pattern drawings of things, and then just analysing those.
Yeah.
And that means you get a lot of really cool artworks, advertising material and pattern drawings that you just wouldn't get somewhere else.
I guess also he's kind of creating his own canon, whereas in Space-Time, although he is sort of forming a story about modern architecture that's relatively, not exactly new, but, it's still in the process of formation a little bit. Here, we're really off-piste, and he's putting together a kind of a sort of novel transect through the media.
I would say it's 80% stuff I haven't heard of.
No, it's really good. I thought like a good place to start, just in terms of taking the temperature of it. There's a kind of historical story about the kind of moral failure of the Napoleonic project. Like he starts off free the serfs, abolish feudalism, and ends up making his various brothers into kings of various countries and that kind of thing. And Giedion gives like a version of that through the lens of interior design, which is
drapes.
Kind of
does the carpet match the drapes?
Which is, but it's the same story, but it's through the lens of there was an opportunity to be revolutionary, and instead there is a kind of counter-revolution. There's like a return to the authority of symbols of imperium kings.
And actually, this is one of the things that I'd heard about this book before.
Yeah.
Was this very small section in it about the devaluation of symbols, is what he calls it. I think for him, it's a point where by pasting lots of kind of historic references on things in a really detailed way, they become even more meaningless.
I think it's a nice little episode to sort of single out because it's quite witty. He talks about the kind of the thresos, which is some kind of sacred symbol that you should have on a staff, being like repurposed as an end for the curtain rods, or this kind of like all of these sacred things that have been pulled out of the canon.
Although to be honest, I think probably the Romans did that too.
Yeah, they were.
I think
they didn't have a lot of rules, did they? But that's he has that story, and then like you say, it's the devaluation of symbols, the kind of density of symbols kind of unmoored from their real like symbolic weight, that then sort of blurs into also a process of industrial production of things where the value of materials sort of disappears as well. You have kind of a big stamping machine that sort of makes whatever it is. The connection between sort of form and material goes away, and everything starts to become unreal. And
that was definitely a tendency in really the first half of the 19th century, when there's better and better methods of industrial production, mass production.
Yeah.
And so things get rather fancy and overwrought.
Yeah.
But let's go back and go through where we left off. Yeah, there's a load of really cool references.
Yeah, because we actually start off in the Middle Ages, don't we? We
start off with the ancient Egyptians, but we quite quickly get to the Middle Ages.
Who sat in chairs. The Egyptians sat in chairs. The Greeks sat in chairs. The Romans preferred to lounge. People in the Middle Ages very often sat on the floor.
I mean, that's a tremendous late medieval painting of a big court case before the king in France. And the judges, and it's a sort of square, improvised, with benches with lots and lots of notables sitting all around and people observing. And the judges are all sitting on the floor with their legs pointing towards the centre.
Yes.
And this is a scene of great solemnity when a duke is going to be sentenced to death before the king. He actually, through the whole section on, he calls it comfort, I think, the section.
Yeah.
But it's a long section. And a lot of it's to do with the ways people sit, lie, work, the different postures that people are in different periods, mainly, I guess, in artworks. And through surviving examples of furniture, and how his point with that one is that you can be very formal just sitting on the floor in that epoch, and there aren't very many chairs. And then he goes through, he's got such an incredible collection of bits of medieval furniture. Did you like the medieval swivel desk chair? Although that one's quite fun, where it's a sort of flip-flop in front of one of these. One of these is like a rotating medieval
this one,
chair.
Yeah, we have a kind of like a sort of hermeneutics of furniture in the background of paintings. And is this a swivel chair? I think we can,
Yes.
It probably is, yeah. This is from a Carpaccio painting of St. Jerome. There's a sort of... Yeah, there a lot of like prestige furniture creeps into the backgrounds of Renaissance pictures.
St. Jerome's great because he's got to have an office.
Yeah.
An office, a lion.
Yes. Often a study, often like... so there are lots of them where he has like really great built-in furniture. I think, is it the Jura one where he has this lovely kind of built-in bench around...
the Jura one, he's like hunched over a desk. But there's there's the famous one, which is not the Jura, where it's a painting.
Yeah.
The Jura one's an engraving, or at least I think the Jura one was an engraving. Perhaps there's a painting as well.
One of the things he says that is, when furniture is sort of being reinvented in the early Middle Ages, is basically all chests.
Yes,
that's the kind of
boxes.
The origin point is you just have lots and lots of chests, which initially are just very, very basic nailed things, and you can kind of put them around the edge of the room,
made of huge pieces of wood.
Yeah, and also
kind of subtractively.
I think that I didn't really know. He sort of says, that basically at that time you couldn't really leave things in your house if you were going away. It was a bit too uncertain. Even if you were very important, it wasn't a good idea to leave things in your various castles.
Took stuff with them. What's this section about? Because he has a whole collection of incredible examples of furniture. That's the Jura one.
That's the Jura one, yeah. He's got these lovely sort of built-in furniture around the windows.
And he goes, the medieval period's quite plain, but still kind of inventive. He likes examples of playful mechanical adjustability in medieval furniture. There's a bench which has got a back which you can flip either way, so you can be facing the fire or facing away from the fire with a sort of swinging thing.
I mean, I think...
And there's a lot of really fancy medieval library furniture, kind of revolving cones you can put books on, or these quite, perhaps a bit later, examples of bookcases where you kind of crank a thing and lots of different books are brought out to you while remaining level due to a set of cogs.
Sort of mechanization as a trend, the sort of tendency to new forms of furniture and kind of gadget furniture is sort of appreciable in the design of furniture all the way back, thousands of years, basically. That there are these sort of stable forms, and there are kind of norms which sort of evolve, but you sort of see these attempts to, I guess in his terms, mechanize the furniture of comfort all the way through, although they obviously gain like a huge amount of momentum during the 19th century.
Yeah, it's funny because he speaks early on, if I remember, about the temple gates in Alexandria where you press a button and the gates swing open. And all these sort of early automata. And he says there's a rift between this and later, which is kind of about mechanization of delight, really.
Yeah.
Because they're a slave economy, right? Well, they're not actually, but they're an economy where there's a sterile consuming class of privileged Greeks mainly, and the mass of people doing the work. And so why would the people who are not doing any of the work anyway try and make the work go away? I mean, I guess the difference here is that it's about comfort.
There's a thing which he's obviously really interested in the 19th century, which is he gives a kind of more detailed account of design going wrong in sort of the way that he thought it had done in the 19th century. The kind of break away from which he connects with the breakaway from a kind of universal vision of design in the Baroque to kind of specialized and heterogeneous and sort of disordered one in the 19th century. He kind of has some new mechanisms for how he thinks that's happening. So it's happening not just through sort of things which happen in design and fashion and things like we were talking about, the French Empire style or whatever, but also through tendencies which emerge out of new ways of doing production. Sort of patent reading, he goes like, well, in between these years there are 35 different attempts to patent processes for doing like fake Japanning or something like that, like there's like an inexhaustible appetite in the sort of first third of the 19th century for fake materials of different kinds, like ways to do luxury cheaper, sort of mechanize and sort of mass produce these sort of baubles of various kinds.
And there's some absolutely marvellous baubles
some big
in there.
baubles,
There's some baubles which I think you can read this book for the argument of the book, but you can also read it for some stupendous examples of different things. And this one has got some stupendous examples of absolutely luscious kitsch.
Yeah, and very self-aware. One of the things that he starts to bring in progressively during the 19th century bits of comfort is he'll sort of drop in surrealist images.
Yes.
He'll have these kind of collages, which are lots of the surrealist collages are literally built of the type of images that he's showing. They kind of explore this kind of rich possibilities for weird and nightmarish sort of visions, with all of these weird bits of Victorian domestic kitsch.
What did you think of the which one is it? I mean, I just love all the drapes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there's the whole bit about like
there's so much
the rise of upholstery. Is a thing. He says something like, "Oh yes, in 1845, the pouf made its entrance into French salons." Yeah. It's like we hear so much about what's the pouf and what's the other one. There's the confortable, which is a sort of armchair, and there is another one. All of these sort of funny types.
I mean, there's just so many great pictures of these things as well.
He brings in also Orientalism is also one of the motors kind of powering the rise of upholstery. Yes. People rediscover the love of reclining deliciously.
Well, the kind of voluptuous French pictures.
Yeah.
He also has this real horror of structure being hidden.
Yeah.
Like whenever the structure
it's not good,
gets hidden, whenever you start putting cloth over the frame,
he gets kind of antsy.
So what are you suppressing at the same time as you're suppressing that wooden armature?
So there's that.
The dangers of springs.
Yeah, there's all of that. There's basically like a much more detailed account of
it's a sort of sexual undertone
of wrong, kind of like wrong think and bad design in the 19th century. All this stuff which he's already been very rude about in passing in space time. We get like a much sort of richer portrait of, and then we have a little bit of the kind of the push against that by kind of progressive designers, and so we hear about Henry Cole. And Owen Jones, and we don't get that much Morris, but you know, like,
and it's funny really because Owen Jones. It's definitely reform from within when it comes to camp decoration, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite a kind of abbreviated account of that movement. He talks about what he calls patent furniture, which is a kind of brief flourishing of gadget furniture in the home, and the energy of which then leaves the home and goes into sort of specialist furniture for all types of technical applications, whether it's vehicles, dentists, one assumes hairdressers.
The reason for this is that he just looks at the patents and he looks at the advertising. Yeah. But at no point to me does he say, this thing... I mean, there are a couple of examples where he says this is a little bit grotesque. Yeah. But, the rocking chair for your living room with like a carriage suspension. Probably the reason that had a brief flourishing in the patent archives is because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's funny.
And no one could possibly have wanted one.
That's a good spread, actually, isn't it? So that's sort of an attempt at a little kind of evolutionary diagram. So you've got the Windsor chair, classic rocking chair. You've got this quote unquote improved rocking chair with carriage suspension, and then you've got to move to sort of pivoting chairs of different kinds. So And I guess this is the advance of mechanization, as he would see it, isn't it? The range of movement is becoming multi-dimensional, and the whole thing is becoming more and more sophisticated.
I mean, a lot of patents never really get used.
They have a brief enthusiasm. Have you noticed that
he really likes analysing the patent image as an image?
Yes.
There's this analysis of a surgical chair versus the Eiffel Tower, because it's got kind of intricate, in fact, I would say badly, not like well-drawn description of the mechanism. And it's very complicated, like the image of the Eiffel Tower. But in a way, what he talks about is the image.
Yes, there's the piano bed. I think that's a real solution in search of a problem there. In addition to the bed, it contains a bureau, 2 closets to hold bedclothes, a wash basin, pitcher, towel, etc. Space economy naively manifested in the piano bed. So I think he's rather in favour of that, actually.
It's an incredibly... At some points, he's kind of really priggish. He's really priggish against certain sorts of decoration.
Yeah.
And then in other ways, he's incredibly innocent.
Yeah.
To why the piano bed might not have,
might not have taken
might
off.
not have ended up in every home up and down the nation.
Stifled by ruling taste. There's a whole bit on the hammock that I didn't really pay any attention to.
No, except that I like the hammock.
The hammock bicycle is good. That's very good, yes. Somewhat grotesque ideas reach the patent office. The hammock swings from an overturned tricycle. A waterproof cover spread over the hull allows one to convert the vehicle into a sleeping apartment. It's got a man with an absolutely enormous moustache in the illustration as well, which seems sort of superfluous, but maybe not. Towards the end, we get a bit of 20th century furniture. I didn't really get what he was talking about with his whole constituent versus transitory facts thing in space-time and architecture, but it's a bit more obvious in this, which is some designs clearly are important to the history of design, and some are just noise. It's kind of evolutionary, like you get a lot of mutations, but some of them become evolution. It's sort of like that.
Some of them survive.
Yeah.
And that's especially true if you're looking at patents and advertising.
Yeah.
Because that's where people are chucking out kind of attempts at getting something to stick. I mean, it's not as if necessarily his classics have really stuck either.
The kind of Esprit Nouveau furniture.
Yeah.
Steel tube. Yeah, I think at that point he really thought, it was going to be goodbye to all that heavy stuff. I don't think he saw...
The counter-revolution. The return of the poof.
You're sitting
on a fully upholstered sofa.
I'm on a fully upholstered sofa, yeah. I don't think he had fully appreciated the wonderful possibilities of petrochemical foams of different sorts. You can send a whole sofa rolled up in a little box.
Yes. Yeah.
It may not be very good.
Do you remember that epoch of when a large part of the new media economy was supported by advertisements for mattresses?
Yes.
Where one of the big selling points was that it came in a small box and you took it out and it expanded.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, no, they were spending a lot of money.
This brief hedonic moment.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, those companies are very much still around, but I think that it commoditized quite quickly.
There's a lot of faith in that a lot of businesses will become natural monopolies, whereas I'm not sure they will.
Yeah.
Reading through the first part of the book, there's an undercurrent of dread with the mechanization of work and the effect it has on the worker.
Yes.
And the mechanization of...
Hog killing.
And the effect that has on... people killing.
Yeah.
The mechanization of food and the effect that has on the body. Not just like the physical effect that it like makes us unhealthy, but it also kind of removes meaning from life. I have a thing that I find it really annoying that people call the central part of a meal the protein, as if some formerly living thing is a chemical.
Do people say that?
It certainly comes up in kind of American cooking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you get
that's no good.
The protein, which is the
good.
meat or fish or whatever. Good. It's a rather sort of pathetic annoyance on my part.
Yeah.
But the idea that you're kind of, for him, the idea that you're taking something which is a part of kind of life and nature and what it is to be alive and reducing it to pre-chewed mush is troubling.
Yes, I mean, alienation is definitely one of the one of the downsides of mechanized life, isn't it? But
But he doesn't have that so much with furniture.
it's not so much with furniture, because furniture seems more to be
delight.
Well, I think there's just a lot to get through, and then if it seems to be leading anywhere, it seems to be leading to these sort of precise, minimal, delightful sort of modern chairs, and a kind of, I guess he's just sort of excited about the sort of stripping out of all of the clutter and the lightening of
He
the
loves gadgets.
domestic surrounds. He does kind
The
of
gadget has to be completely and utterly insane for him
Yeah.
to think that it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, it does contain multitudes, this book. I think there's there's layers and layers and layers of stuff going on. After comfort, chairs and their derivatives, we get the household, which is
I think
mostly...
this is a section where he's really positive about this as well.
And this is mostly about cooking kitchens.
And cleaning.
Yeah, there is a bit of cleaning at the end.
Floor cleaning, washing machines.
It's about the kitchen, the vacuum cleaner, and how all of the sort of household tasks gradually become the subject of this sort of focused technical design. And he's got there's some really interesting...
There's some good points, one of which is that the kind of Taylorization of the kitchen starts 100 years before Taylor.
Yeah. Oh, there's a really interesting reference. This woman, Catherine Beecher, in the 1840s to 60s, who's essentially does like a version of sort of Frankfurt Kitchen.
Yeah.
But, basically, yeah. Like
Almost
kind of,
indistinguishable.
yeah.
At least in the representation here.
Yeah, I mean, and her principles are literally still the ones that, which is like, you should be able to move quickly between tasks. They should be sort of adjacent to one another. It's still like with kitchen design 101.
It's
Get a little triangle between the key activities, and keep the travel distances as short as possible.
It's almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, the tasks that are going on in the kitchen are quite different.
Yeah, it is,
Actually,
it's
I think
rather
her kitchen has some advantages over like all of the hanging tools and the more conveniently accessible shelves. And actually, going through this whole section, there's a lot of things where parts of the ideas, there's a sort of 1840s dishwasher, which is hand cranked and is almost the same in terms of engineering principle to the modern, in inverted commas, dishwasher that he has, which is still a sort of rotating drum one. The difference being it has to wait for electricity, electrical water heating, small motor.
Yeah.
Because before then, you have to provide all of that yourself.
Yeah.
Meaning that the labour saving is pretty marginal.
It's got a lot of interesting references. It actually doesn't include the one which now is the canonical one, which is the Margareta Schuter-Lechowski's Frankfurt Kitchen. There's a whole series of other ones, but
do you think that's on purpose? Like, sometimes I feel in both this book and the previous one, he kind of excludes the most obvious example in order to kind of show both that the thing goes back a lot further in time and that a lot of people are doing it partly for his idea of anonymous history. There's all this stuff going on that no one's heard of.
I think that one actually might have like completely fallen out of the canon for a bit and then and been sort of rediscovered in the 70s or something.
Yeah.
In that funny way that history sort of works. But there's some great ones.
I mean, it doesn't need it.
No, because
there's so many.
There's lots of other ones as well.
What a lot of different
and then we get
apparatus for
there's
stoves.
Lots of stoves.
Some of which, and you can chart the kind of technological development.
Yeah.
You can chart deep antecedents of things where the kind of economy wasn't ready for it. And then the grotesque examples, which are obviously the real highlights.
Yeah, I love this thing called the Rumford Range, which is on page 530.
This is his version. This is his version for a military hospital, and this is the version for a Bavarian nobleman.
Yeah, the pots all like slot into these big
heated
into these big holes.
There's a fire underneath. It's like a range. It's got a big, thick top.
Yeah,
perhaps that's full of sand or something. I don't know. It's not very clear how it works.
It's quite an amazing formally. It's slightly reminiscent of like a kind of monastery toilet or something. That kind of. Bench with lots of holes in.
No, it's just a cast iron shell, but it's what is hatched as solid presumably can't possibly be.
And then lots of amazing cast iron. I absolutely love all these. I mean, you can do a lot with it, can't you? You can and you have all of these little it becomes very gadgety because you can have a little plate, or you can have a little cutout in the plate which you take out and get direct access to the fire, or you can kind of swap in and out the little plates, and then you've got all the little oven doors and plug-in ovens
and rings and stuff.
and plate warmers and all sorts of things like that. It's great. Maybe we should talk about the end of this chapter. He talks about streamlining, and there is streamlining which for him is the sort of aesthetics of what he calls full mechanization. This is where like a little bit of the reservations start to creep in, and there's a bit of a sort of sense of anxiety about where this is going to. In the kind of primitive forms of all of these gadgets, like the motor's very exposed and it's all quite transparent how it works, and in the streamlined version they become these kind of miracle objects. It's as if like the human users are sort of becoming kind of the Eloi from the Time Machine. They're sort of increasingly inhabiting a world of,
and also the symbol is being devalued, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's going from it's a metal box with a motor screwed to the bottom to there's a envelope which is sculpted in a form to depict speed and efficiency, and then that's a kind of veil over
what's actually
the mechanical business, which is completely disconnected to it. And there is a disquiet about that, which you needn't have worried about, because the worrying about the black box. But even his surgical tables and things at the beginning, quite quickly people put boxes around things to protect the mechanism. And stop oil getting out and dirt getting in. But the idea that it would be that all the white goods would be kind of formed into depictions of speed, it's more that the notion that a dishwasher is a particularly speedy item slightly dwindles.
Yes.
And mainly they are formed into things which attempt to make them disappear. Much more common is putting a wooden door in front.
Yes.
He has a section about this notion that you'll have a kind of mechanical core that might be wholly like industrially produced in one go, plonked into houses.
It's a sort of almost like a plug-in idea. I guess he had seen Bucky Fuller's designs for prefabricated bathrooms, and that also features in the next chapter. And I guess he's kind of extrapolating from that a sort of idea that there might just be a kind of all-in-one.
You can see why Rainer Banham might have liked it. And Rainer Banham, I think, did like this book. Because Rainer Banham's idea, you almost have like you're on the back of your car. You've got your utility pod.
You kind of park up and live in the treehouse the rest of the time.
Which actually is a complete misreading. The really impressive thing is you have electricity, utilities being delivered. And then you just have a plug and play system where you can take in and out anything. And all it needs to be is compatible with mains electricity or gas or water. And that interchangeability is what gives the mass production its potential, because you can continually update designs.
Here's a bit right at the end. Is not the infrared oven progress? The housewife need not waste a moment opening cans and waiting for the food to warm. All is done instantaneously. She does not even wash dishes, for the plastic container is thrown away. In 1945, a number of frozen food centres designed for self-service, where the cartons are stacked in white enamel chests, were seen in New York and its suburbs. Will the frozen food centres contain the fresh raw materials of cooking, or will the dominion of the tin can be further extended in the guise of ready-cooked, ready-made frozen foods? Will the assembly line steak triumph, or will there be a return to spontaneous cooking in the home? Etc., etc., etc. So that's the disquiet, isn't it? The kind of
and he'd already voiced that early on in the agriculture and food section. There is a moral undertone about like he's got this sort of notion about dignified leisure.
You've
got to
touch grass,
meditatively touch grass and really mindfully think about your activities, kind of.
Ideally in a group of like-minded individuals.
Yes. Kind of unconvincing in a way, but maybe I'm just not very susceptible to it. It's definitely a tendency which has existed across time, complaining about an insufficiency of that. The next section's
is the bath.
the bath.
Yeah, so there's a sort of shortish chapter. The last chapter is the bath, which is very.
Which also it's the
very-
bath and some notes on exercise.
Yeah, exercise and leisure, and we kind of go back to the Roman baths. We also have the Islamic baths.
Greek ones.
We
even
have a
more.
bit on Gothic baths. Yes, some nice gymnastic illustrations, and then we kind of quite rapidly progress to the design of bathroom fittings and the increasingly like kitted out private bathroom in the home. And then towards the end, we have things like Bucky Fuller's sort of bathroom, all-in-one, prefabricated bathrooms, and all of these kind of.
And I suppose in fact, in his conclusion, he points out that baths do two things.
Yeah,
And they've done two things for all time. You wash,
yes,
and you also renew yourself.
yes. The ablution, the simple ablution, and the full regeneration.
Yeah, so there's a kind of ritual or social component of baths. The Roman bath is a social place.
Yeah,
Even when it's in the private home, it's a social place because you don't just... The effort of firing one of those things up.
yeah, yeah. And he kind of regrets the loss of the latter, doesn't he? You know, that one of the trends. I guess it's partly like a cultural trend in the West, and it's also about.
I would say
the individual
by now
home
it's
and-
a cultural trend just about everywhere.
Yeah, I guess it was sort of kind of modernity, really, towards having an individual bath, having a little shower in your house rather than.
When people have a choice between using communal resources or the resource being available in their home, such as baths or things, there is a general tendency towards doing it all at home.
It's very convenient,
Yeah.
and you can have it your way.
And you can have it your way.
Yeah.
When there's a choice between communal living and not communal living, most, but not everybody,
Chooses.
chooses to live in their family.
Yeah, well, I mean, there isn't really much of a sort of organic tradition of communal bathing in this country. It is a fun thing to do on
There was
holiday.
more of it. There's still you can go down the road. There's the Ironmonger's Row.
What, Turkish bath?
Yeah, there's quite a few still going around here.
There are some, yeah.
I think we don't think about it so much because it's also not exotic.
Yeah, no, maybe
Because there are communal baths.
yes.
I can think of a few within walking distance of here. They're just very old-fashioned and slightly run down.
No, it's nice to do a bit of sauna or a bit of onsen or whatever in another place as an experience. But I think this chapter, it's definitely a bit more kind of pessimistic or like a bit more, yeah. There's obviously good things about everyone has access to cleanliness and hygiene, but it's a bit clearer what's been lost from the individualization of the bath and kind of bath culture.
Yeah, his favourite one is the Russian bath, as he describes it. It's just communal bathing.
Which is what? Dangerously hot sauna.
Yeah, I think so.
And then a bit of whipping with twigs.
Well, the picture of it from there looks like something out of Dante's Inferno. And also completely plausible. It's too big. Like all of the sections, there's some really wacky baths. Do you like this? In the middle of the wood, there is a sort of hollowed out log, and it ejects cold water out of it for you to get cured.
Yeah, that's good.
There's a lot of very good water cure methods. The steam bath apparatus, which is you sort of go into a kind of iron lung contraption and have steam pumped through by a boiler. Yeah, a lot of quite elaborate sort of ways of steaming yourself, basically.
Yeah.
And then after baths comes a short conclusion. And I was kind of hoping for something a little bit more
Yeah.
punchy from this conclusion, although it does dissolve into poetry, which is
Yeah,
quite
it does
funny.
have poetry at the end. That's pretty funny, yeah.
And the conclusion, as far as I can remember, is he's got people don't believe in progress anymore
Yeah.
because we had the First and Second World War.
Progress is an illusion, yes.
And he has a sort of history of people thinking about progress or not progress.
Yeah. Will future generations designate this period as one of mechanized barbarism? Basically, we need to, he talks about we need to canalize mechanization. He sees it as this kind of blind, groping thing, kind of moving under its own power and gradually kind of shifting into different areas of human life and the environment. And you need to direct it to the right places and also keep it out of certain places, I think is
in
part of it.
in the home section, he said we need to domesticate mechanization rather than have the mechanical tyrannize the house.
Yeah.
There was a lot more concern about that when it was new.
Yeah.
And the era of mechanized barbarism, I think there's two things when we look at history and think of mechanized barbarism. People think of the dark satanic mills.
Yeah.
People dying young.
Yes.
In industrial blight.
Yes. Lots of girls with phossy jaw.
Yeah. And then the one that they'd just been through.
Yeah.
The industrial killing in the Second World War.
Yeah.
And I guess to some degree, industrial war full stop. Those are slightly more remote from our position now.
Yeah.
Not very many people here have experienced mechanical war. We obviously still have factories, although not so many around here. But working in them is boring, I think, often, but not not horrendous.
Yeah. Not killing huge numbers of people. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah, I mean, I think that the trains, the gas chambers, the sort of spreadsheetization of genocide obviously leaves a long shadow on this book. But there was also quite a lot of just traditional killing. And in the rest of the 20th century, there's also been people who have gone back to perfectly old-fashioned ways of doing mass killing with quite a degree of efficacy. I can see it sort of makes sense to write about it in that light then, but it sort of becomes a little bit less persuasive, maybe.
Yeah, nowadays we're kind of more worried about the dehumanizing effect of information technologies, right?
Yeah, I think so.
We're worried about the effects of spending so much time on the internet, or the effects of universal surveillance.
Yeah.
Or
I think the idea that like mechanization and sort of alienation unlocks new possibility of new levels of barbarism. I don't know. It just feels slightly like I think the barbarism seems to have just been there all along, actually, and it takes advantage of the available technical means at its disposal.
There's also the incidental problems, though, right?
Yeah.
The factories didn't kill people because the factories owners wanted them to kill people.
Yeah.
They may not have cared enough.
Yeah.
But they didn't particularly want to. We're not like sort of destroying the ecology of the planet because we want to.
No.
But it is a result of mechanization.
It is, yeah.
You know, if you think about the anxieties of the ages, after the First World War, people were very worried that everyone was going to be killed by aerial bombardment.
Yes.
After the atomic explosions at the end of the Second World War, people were reasonably worried about the ending of civilization by atomic war. It's quite mechanized. Now there is general anxiety about global warming.
Yeah.
These are products of mechanization.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say they've completely slipped from public consciousness.
No, indeed. No, we definitely got new ones.
They're not the worry about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't say that the Holocaust was extraordinary barbarity driven by strange conspiracy theory, really, a conspiratorial view of the world. And the information technologies that we have now spreading conspiracy or the conspiratorial mindset, and that having a pernicious effect on communal thought and politics, that's something that people worry about nowadays.
Sure, yeah, that's definitely an ongoing panic, isn't it?
If you look at it in its most literal way, sure, thinking has moved on, but I wouldn't say the effects of mechanization are like far away from our worries nowadays.
Oh, yeah, no. I guess what I meant more was that there seemed to be a thesis about mechanization sort of leading to barbarism through alienation and kind of deadening people to the impacts of their behavior, or kind of abstracting the sort of a violence away from them. And then I think if you kind of consider it in a sort of more rounded way, actually, most of the barbarism of the 20th century, a lot of it is just driven by the pure desire to go and kill a lot of people who you hate, or something like that. Like that seems to be much more of a
Yeah, although you
motive
could
force.
say, why do people? I mean, I think that's right, but I also think that the way that mass media separate you from, I mean, actually, I think like that barbarity is something that's gone throughout human history from the prehistoric.
Yeah.
But people certainly could make a case that it was easier to be separate from the story in the 20th century because you could receive news through mass media, and
Yeah.
now we receive news through digital media.
Yeah.
And you can have the same sorts of worry about the effect of
The digital outrage machine. Yeah.
the digital outrage machine,
Yeah.
whereas before it could be the effect of...
everyone being micro-targeted by the most triggering thing that they can that
Yeah.
the algorithm can think
Whereas
of.
before it could be,
Yeah.
pervasive propaganda. I kind of don't think it is all new, but I think you can still sort of see this thread.
Yeah, it sort of definitely feels like it's a book. Yeah.
We live in... It's quite old now, like,
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely do a kind of looking back on this book entirely framed through the sort of pathologies of 21st century information technology and phone brain, short form video brain, people not reading books anymore, no one socializing or having sex, or because they're all in love with some weird little AI avatar or something.
I guess. But also, there's just been an interesting change where up until, I don't know, not all that long ago, actually, there was just kind of more and more gadgets, right? There were more and more things that did specific roles that need to be made.
Yeah.
And that, in a way, drove the economy.
Yeah.
You invent cars, you suddenly got to have factories to make them, and you got to have roads, and then you got to have places to go to.
Yeah.
And then all this electronic stuff in the house. And then later on, you've got your personal gadgets for calling people and listening to music. And then the more recent tendency has been that everything, that the sort of mechanical gadgets continue, but they kind of aren't expanding.
Yeah.
And a lot of things are done, a lot of development is done by putting a computer or putting a terminal to the kind of internet into things.
Yeah.
And having that kind of contract the space of gadgets, and a lot of the utility coming from that, which is a slightly different tendency. The mechanization has two components, right? It's got the power.
Yeah.
And it's got the kind of control device. Yeah. We're still kind of increasing the amount of power we consume, but nothing like as much as we're increasing the amount of control and communication.
Yeah.
To go with it. The effect of that on work as well.
Well, I mean,
he analyzes work and home, and there is a big work component to the way life has developed.
Yeah, well, I guess that you would just sort of shift the frame slightly, wouldn't you? You would go from mechanization to automation. It's the kind of the action itself to the kind of the ability to abstract even the sort of initiation and control process away.
He early on has not that early on, he has a picture of automated production line for the frames of cars. And there is an overseer watching a succession of kind of cam-driven riveting machines, who is kind of like the powered, the man controlling the power.
Yeah.
And that person's got further and further away.
Yeah.
It's still it was a magical image through the 20th century. It was kind of, if you think of a lot of the philosophy of the Soviet Union was really, we can have this controlling power.
Yeah.
What if we just put everything into a computer? But now we've actually done it.
Yeah. Yes. Looking for something to use it for.
Everything.
Yeah. Very plausibly an enormous war seems to be.
Yeah, people have always been thinking about that, and then sometimes it does happen.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times it doesn't. Well, on that jolly thought.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for supporting the podcast.
I think we should put a load of
we can stick some. We'll have
images for this.
I'll scan some. Yeah, there's some great stuff. We can scan some things in, and they'll appear in on the socials as well as on the video.
I actually really think this one's worth a read.
Yeah.
It rewards a skim, and it rewards actually looking through
Yeah.
the sections in more detail as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that I would agree with it completely, but I can see why it was so exciting for lots of people at the time that it came out.
Yeah, no, definitely. Worth it, I think. So,
And next, something completely different.
next, something completely
Although,
different.
in some ways,
kind of similar, but yes, slightly more primitive means.
yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.